Hello, welcome to Microfiche Microphone. I'm Micah, and on this channel we look at microfiche from the past, old newspaper articles in the public domain. We look at them with our modern eyes, our modern perspective, and see what we can learn from them. On this microfiche time capsule, we are looking back at the Juvenile Instructor from the 1st of September 1901, and this article is entitled Lives of Our Leaders, the First Council of the 70, President Joseph W. McMurrin. So I think this is one of those people that I think most people have never heard of. So including myself. No, I'm just kidding. I have heard the name, but I don't know really anything about this person. So, and as opposed to the last couple articles we've read, this one is signed. So this one is by Edwin F. Parry. So hopefully it will be better than the last couple. You can always hold out hope. Anyways, so let's take a look. Like I said, I don't know anything about this person, and at the end I will fact check some things off of Wikipedia. Hopefully they're accurate too. Anyways, you're only as good as your sources, right? Let's take a look at the article. The subject of this sketch is the latest chosen president of the First Council of the 70 and is the youngest of the 7 who preside over the numerous quorums of 70s throughout the church. He is the son of Joseph and Margaret Liang McMurrin. That is a strange last name. I don't know how to pronounce that. Leaing. And was born in Tooele, Utah, September 5th, 1858. Shortly after his birth, his parents moved to Salt Lake City, and it was here he spent his boyhood days. His opportunities for scholastic education were but meager, and while quite a youth, he was apprenticed to the stonecutter's trade and worked for about 2 years on the Salt Lake Temple. Good for him. When only 17 years old, he was called upon a colonizing mission to Arizona. He left his home to fulfill this call on the 1st of February, 1876. 1876. He was 18, driving 2 yoke of cattle on the way. After 2 months of hard travel, he, with his companions, arrived near the present site of St. Joseph on the Little Colorado River. He spent 2 years in assisting to establish that town. While upon this mission, he gained considerable valuable experience in constructing dams and canals, in getting out timber from the forests, in building log houses, as well as in plowing and planting and all such work as is common to pioneer life. Yeah, it's a hard life though, isn't it? I mean, that's a lot of work. Imagine moving into a place where it's not only that you have to build a house, but you also have to build a road next to it. You have to make sure you have enough water. Like all these things that we completely take for granted today. A little incident that occurred while he was in Arizona is worth relating, showing, as it does, that he at that time had learned to put his trust in the Lord for guidance. It also furnishes an example of the efficacy of prayer. On one occasion, while upon the mountains in the midst of a dense forest, he lost his bearings and was unable to return to the camp where his companions were located. He searched for hours for the camp, but all in vain. His feelings at the time were most distressing, as he knew there was little hope of finding any human beings or habitation within 100 miles if he missed his companions. Yeah. Gosh, imagine that. Like back in those times, there's just nobody for hundreds of miles. Oh, that's so crazy to me today. As the shades of night approached, he knelt down and sought the Lord in prayer, asking that he might be directed back to the camp. Immediately on rising from his knees, he felt strongly impressed to go in a direction exactly opposite to the one he had previously supposed was the one to take. He followed this impression, and to his great joy, was led in a direct line to the camp. That's so cool. I'm just like, I have a feeling I should go this way, actually. Wow. On being released from this Arizona mission, he returned to his home in Salt Lake City, and for some time afterwards was engaged in hauling freight. Gosh, that's the third person we've talked about that did that. The last one was J. Golden Kimball, and also I happen to know that Anthony W. Ivins also did this. Hauling freight, this is a thing, Basically a glorified truck driver. I mean, if it were today, it would be truck driver. So it's not a glamorous job, but, it gets the job done, Through this occupation, he became familiar with the various mining camps in the vicinity of Salt Lake Valley. His next undertaking was that of railroad construction. In 1881, in connection with some friends, he secured a contract to build part of the Oregon Short Line grade near Granger, Wyoming. While engaged in this work, he received a call to take a mission to Great Britain, and in October of that year, he left home in compliance with that call. Upon his arrival in Liverpool, he was assigned to the Scottish Conference. This was much to his satisfaction, as his parents were natives of Scotland. Oh yeah, McMurrin, yeah. And he had a strong desire to visit the land of his fathers. Now that's cool. He labored for 25 months in that land, the last 7 months as president of the conference. That's quite a prestigious position as well. His labors upon this mission were very enjoyable as well as profitable to him. He had the satisfaction of baptizing 50 souls. That's so many, geez. And among this number were 2 of his father's sisters. Wow! He baptized his aunts? That's so cool. Ever since this, his first mission abroad, Elder McMurrin has been an enthusiastic advocate of missionary work. And now, after a lapse of 20 years, he feels assured that no other experience or training could have been of so much worth to him as that gained while a boy missionary in Scotland. Well, good for him. That's really quite a testimony, yeah? After his return from Great Britain, he was called as a home missionary and was also active in the ward in which he resided. On the night of November 28, 1885, a tragedy occurred which, were it not for a miracle, would have terminated in the death of Elder McMurrin. It will be remembered that this was during the period known to our people as the Crusade, when officers of the law were raiding the settlements of the saints in search of offenders against the Edmunds Act, and when much unnecessary violence was resorted to in order to capture those who were most eagerly sought. Really, I didn't realize it was violent. I knew they arrested a lot of people, but geez. Without any provocation, Elder McMurrin, on the occasion above mentioned, was attacked by a United States Deputy Marshal who shot him twice in the bowels. Oh my gosh! The bullet passing entirely through his body. Gosh! Holy cow! Being wounded at such a vital part, no hope could be entertained that human skill would be of any avail in saving his life. I'll bet back then, we're talking 1880s. Oh my gosh. That's basically a death sentence. The most eminent doctors of the city were positive in their opinion that he could not live. More than one of them declared that no person had ever been known to survive such deadly wounds. Brother McMurrin also felt that his life was fast ebbing away and fully expected to die. While in this condition, waiting for the end and believing that he had but a few hours at most to live, he was visited by Apostle John Henry Smith. This wasn't paranormal, he was still alive. So John Henry Smith was a person who visited him. He related to the apostle what the doctors had told him and expressed his own belief in the correctness of their views. After hearing what Brother McMurrin had to say, Apostle Smith took him by the hand and said, "Brother Joseph, as an apostle of the Lord Jesus, I promise you, in the name of Jesus Christ, that if you desire to live, you shall live, no matter what doctors may say to the contrary." Wow. Ooh, that gives me chills. Oh, that's such a powerful blessing. Oh my gosh. I can't even imagine. I'm speechless. Elder McMurrin had a wife and 2 children at this time, and had a strong desire to live to care for them, and the promise of the apostle filled him with hope and joy. But when Apostle Smith had departed from the house, and when he looked at the dreadful wounds in his body, he could not believe it possible that the promise would be realized. Yeah. God, however, in his merciful kindness and in fulfillment of the promise of his inspired servant, spared his life. The wounds were healed, and Elder McMurrin was completely restored to soundness of body. That is a flippin' miracle. His recovery was a miracle, I just said that, wrought by the power of the Lord, and he freely and emphatically acknowledges that such was the case. Wow. Oh my gosh. That's horrific and miraculous, at the same time. Wow. In 1886, Elder McMurrin was called a second time to take a mission to Great Britain. Oh, that was shortly thereafter, yeah? Because this happened in November 1885, so he must have been recovered fairly well, really quickly. I'm impressed. I'm really impressed. This time he labored in various parts of the mission. He was absent from home over 4 years, and during the last 2.5 years of this period he presided over the London Conference. He was accompanied on this mission by his wife and 2 children. I feel like he had one of the smaller families of the people that we've talked about so far, yeah? He only had 2 children? Well, maybe, I don't know how many he had at the end. We'll look it up later, but... Because he wasn't dead when this was written, so it's not impossible that he has more children. While in London, he was suddenly seized with an illness that caused him great pain for a considerable time. It appeared to be appendicitis, that troubled him. His missionary companions administered to him, and through the prayer of faith he was instantly healed, and has never since been troubled in the same way. Another miracle, because appendicitis was very often fatal, especially at that time, although the only other person I know at that time who survived appendicitis was Heber J. Grant. Like, if you didn't know that, listen to my video on Heber J. Grant, because it's a flippin' miracle. I had no idea that happened to him, but yeah, he survived appendicitis in the 1880s. Wow. Again, he had occasion to acknowledge the goodness and power of God exercised in his behalf. Amen. Like, clearly he wasn't done with his mission on earth. Wow. Like that of many of Israel's leaders, the history of Brother McMurrin's life is greatly made up of accounts of missionary labor. In July 1896, he again took his leave of dear ones at home and started upon another foreign mission. This time he went as first counselor to Elder Rulon S. Wells, who at the same time was called to preside over the European mission. He spent 2.5 years in the ministry while filling this position. During this time, he traveled extensively throughout Great Britain, Holland, Belgium, Scandinavia, Germany, and Switzerland, and also visited France, Austria, and Italy. Why do they say traveled extensively in some countries and then other ones they just visited? What's the difference? Were they in the countries or not? I'm assuming so. So why do they say that? I don't understand why they specify it. Maybe they were only in 1 or 2 little cities. I don't know. It's weird, I think. Why don't you just say they went to visit all of these countries? Just get it over with. At the General Conference of the Church held in October 1897, Brother McMurrin was sustained as one of the first 7 presidents of the 70s, and was ordained to this position by Apostle Anton H. Lund in the city of Liverpool, England, January 21st, 1898. Really? Brother Lund was then on his way to the Holy Land. Yeah? Okay. So he was on his way to Israel, and he just thought he'd stop by England real quick to set him apart for his calling in the presidency of the 70s. Okay. I guess he was still on serving as counselor in the European mission at the time. Wow, crazy. I'll bet he returned home right after that, though. Since his return from his last foreign mission, President McMurrin has been chosen a member of the General Board of the Young Men's Mutual Improvement Associations and has been actively engaged in the ministry in the Stakes of Zion, visiting the Mutual Improvement Associations, the quorums of the 70s, attending state conferences, and performing other such duties as pertain to his callings. In his travels, he has visited nearly all the Stakes of Zion, I think that's quite impressive as well. In company with Apostle A.O. Woodruff, he made an extended trip into what is known as the Big Horn Country during the summer of 1899. On this journey, they traveled with a team about 1,200 miles, and in doing so were occupied about 6 weeks. For about 300 miles of the way, they journeyed over the old Mormon Emigrant Road, which was first marked out by the pioneers of 1847. This to them was quite an interesting feature. Yeah, but that's a little touristy of them, yeah? The country along parts of the Shoshone River were examined, and after the return of the brethren, it was decided to send a colony into the basin to locate there. On their journey, these visiting brethren found quite a number of Latter-day Saints located at a town called Burlington. They had been there for a number of years, and Elders Woodruff and McMurrin organized them into a ward. This year, a Stake of Zion has been formed in the basin, and the prospects are that many more Latter-day Saints will build homes in that section of Wyoming. And if you're not familiar with that, there are a lot of members in Wyoming. Brother McMurrin has spent nearly 10 years abroad as a missionary and has traveled 75,000 miles, while engaged in missionary work, and yet he is a young man in years, abundantly possessed of both mental and physical strength. As a minister of the gospel, he is earnest, active, and enthusiastic, and his extensive experience in the ministry has made him highly capable in performing and directing missionary labors. While he is of a modest, unassuming disposition, he is possessed of much force of character. He has a good knowledge of the gospel and of church government, in discerning and discreet. I don't know what that means in that context. Is discerning and discreet, okay? And in his labors he enjoys to a marked degree the spirit of inspiration, not only in public speaking, but also in directing the efforts and movements of himself and others. His life is an example of what may be accomplished by a willing obedience to those in authority. As has already been stated, he had, while in his boyhood days, a very limited opportunity of acquiring an education in the institutions of learning. Yet by ever seeking to perform the duties required of him, and by his studious habits, he gained an education in the practical matters of life that will serve him admirably in the calling imposed upon him. The development and knowledge received through his missionary labors make him eminently qualified for the position he holds as one of the presidents in the First Council of 70, Edwin F. Parry. It's interesting that the way they word it, when they say this, the calling imposed upon him. Do they not get a say back then? I thought that they could accept or reject it. Anyway, so let's Google him now. Joseph McMurrin. Alright, it's not too long, so let's just read the whole thing. Joseph William McMurrin, born September 5th, 1858, died October 24th, 1932. So at this time in 1901, he had a lot of life ahead of him. So let's see if we missed anything, yeah? Was a general authority and a member of the First Council of the 70 of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He served as president of the California Mission of the LDS Church from 1919 until 1932. See, we didn't know that because that hadn't happened yet, yeah? Joseph W. McMurrin was married to Mary Ellen Hunter on April 1st, 1880, and had 7 children. So he did have more than 2, but he also didn't have nearly as large of a family as many other people did. So, considering that he only had 1 wife. At least it sounds like it. McMurrin was born in Tooele, Utah Territory. He was sustained one of the First Council of the 70 on October 5, 1897. McMurrin was ordained a member of the Council of the 70 in 1898 in England. Yeah, they mentioned that. Though born in Tooele, McMurrin was largely raised in Salt Lake City. He learned the trade of stone cutting and worked for a time as a stone cutter on the Salt Lake Temple when a teen. In 1876, when he was on a colonizing mission to St. Joseph, Arizona, where he remained for 2 years, he then returned to Salt Lake City. He then hauled freight from Salt Lake City to various mining camps. In 1881, he took up a contract with some associates to build a portion of the Oregon Short Line Railroad through Wyoming. While doing this, he was called to serve an LDS mission in Great Britain. He served for 25 months in Scotland, which was where his parents had originated from. Among many others, he baptized 2 of his aunts. So far, so good, yeah? Now, this is all 100% accurate. After returning to Utah, McMurrin was called as a home missionary, somewhat like modern ward missionaries. He also acted as a bodyguard to LDS church leaders during the anti-polygamy crusade. Oh, that's what he was doing there. I was wondering about that because he wasn't a polygamist. So why would the U.S. Marshals be after him? Yeah, in 1885, he was shot by a U.S. Marshal through his vitals, but survived after being given a priesthood blessing by John Henry Smith. Yeah. Wow. Okay, that makes sense. He was a bodyguard. Imagine that. In 1886, McMurrin went on another mission to England, this time accompanied by his wife and 2 children. He was head of the London Conference for most of this mission. In 1896, McMurrin was sent on a 3rd mission. This time he served as first counselor in the European Mission Presidency to Rulin S. Wells. Although based in Britain, he traveled extensively to oversee missionary work in continental Europe as well. He was also one of the key people involved in pushing to have single women called as missionaries. Good for him. He died in Los Angeles, California on October 24th, 1932. Well, honestly, there really wasn't much more to add, except that he was president of the California Mission, and how many children he had. Honestly, and when he died. That's it. And other than that, everything was in the article, and everything else was spot on. So good job, Edwin F. Parry. I trust your research. You write excellent articles. Thank you very much for doing excellent research. Also, I loved all the stories they told. Okay, so what do we feel about Joseph McMurrin? So I feel like he was a person of great faith, yeah? Like imagine having that much faith to be healed, that you lived through several things that should have killed you. Like honestly should have killed you, where the doctor would look at you and be like, how the flip are you still alive? Yeah? And wow, like it's just blowing me away. Like having that much faith, and he just was an enthusiastic missionary and just loved what he did, it sounds like. And just loved what he did. So, my hat's off to you, Joseph McMurrin. I think that you are a very incredible person. And I would have loved to have gotten to know you. Wow. One of the many, many people I wish I could know. Anyways, that was really fun, and I am very entertained, and I hope you were too. If you did like that as much as I did, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you in the next video.